I'm Oonagh Williams of Gluten Free Cooking with Oonagh. I have a culinary arts degree and trained in London and Switzerland, but now live in New Hampshire. About 5 years ago, my son was diagnosed gluten and lactose intolerant, and actually it's celiac disease and dairy intolerance. We have celiac disease in the family and family members with huge numbers of food allergies. So with a mother's guilt trip, and it's family after all, I work on helping people as much as possible to go gluten-free with real food, which I've always done. So we're going to talk today about packaged gluten-free pasta. You can make homemade gluten-free pasta. If you're used to making wheat flour pasta, you won't have any difficulty making gluten-free pasta. I've certainly made it. I look on it though that it's the time factor to do it, so how many of us have that time factor. Plus, unfortunately, if you had pasta rollers to do your wheat flour, most pasta rollers, to my understanding, won't let you put them in the dishwasher. They can only be brushed clean with a brush, so you can't use them to do your gluten-free because you'll be so contaminated by the wheat still left on the rollers. And unfortunately, the King Arthur pasta rollers, which are superb, are something like $150 for 3 pasta rollers, and you have to have the KitchenAid machine, obviously, the mixer, to use them. So it's not so easy for all of us. So, you know, let's be simple. Let's go for whatever we can easily find and use. Now in New Hampshire, my local store, Market Basket, tends to have the best prices for most things. So that's where I go to for most of my shopping. And the pasta I tend to buy most of the time is one called Tinkyada, which is this one. It's a brown rice pasta, it's dedicated facility, and as they say themselves, it can take a lot of overcooking. It's about 15 minutes to cook it. It certainly still does stay decently al dente. So this is the spaghetti that they do. They also do different lasagnas, and what I love about the lasagna that I just posted on my Facebook is you can go back to the way of doing it as a no-boil pasta. So I will make lasagna by putting a very runny white sauce, just thickened with cornstarch, in the bottom of my pan, putting raw lasagna on top of it, putting my ricotta cheese mixture on top of that, another layer of raw pasta just broken to size. Doesn't matter if it doesn't look beautiful, just fill it in like a jigsaw puzzle. Then put your meat or your vegetable sauce on top, more raw pasta on top of that. Then I finish it off with the rest of the runny white sauce on top of it, and then a good load of cheese. Cover it up, refrigerate it overnight, and then put it in the oven at 350 for about an hour, and it's wonderful. Absolutely no problem. It doesn't taste any different. Now, I've only found one other brand out there that does say it's a lasagna and it's no cook. That's the Dubolis one, and I'm fairly sure this one is corn. No, it says it's a rice lasagna, so I haven't tried that yet. I am very good about posting my recipes on my blog, and I will tell you on Facebook when I've posted them, so you'll find them there. So as I say, Tinkyada, they've got lasagna, they've got penne, ziti, ordinary spaghetti. They also have the large shells, so you can stuff the shells. Unfortunately, of course, with the large shells, you have to pre-boil them, which is a total pain, so that's why I like doing the lasagna. But there's nothing to stop you doing what I term a lazy lasagna and putting raw ziti or penne into the same sort of mixture as you do with the meat, the vegetables, or the cheese, and doing it that way for a lasagna. Other brands out there, I found these at the Gluten Free Intolerance or Gluten Free Allergy Expo in Texas this year. It's by a company called Viviana out of Colorado, and what made me jump for joy is they actually do gluten-free orzo, and they've sent me various packages of their different ones to try out. Their lemon orzo is phenomenal. I love it with something like shrimp, salmon, chicken. They also do a sweet potato one that for me is a little bit too cinnamony sweet, but with something like a pork and sweet potatoes and butternut squash, it would be absolutely phenomenal again. So that's great. Shah is a European brand that you can now get as penne in the store. Unfortunately, too many of these you can't find in every single store. That's the difficulty. Trader Joe's do their own ordinary brown rice pasta. It's probably the cheapest one out there. It does tend to go a little bit mushy unless you're really careful with your timing. My son is very fond of the Ancient Harvest quinoa pasta that now seems to have corn in it. It's a lot more yellow, and I find it gets a lot more starchy cooking. And it's also significantly more expensive than the other ones. But of course, with quinoa, you're getting better nutrition from it. The other ones I have, I just noticed recently, Barilla have now come out with a gluten-free pasta, and comments on my Facebook, people say they've used the Barilla pasta and they like it. I also found Ronzoni does gluten-free pasta, and the comments again on my Facebook where they preferred the Barilla to the Ronzoni. But it's all down to your own personal taste, isn't it, obviously, and what your kids like and the shape of the pasta and what's available in your area. The other things I like to buy in my local Asian market, these are rice vermicelli that's gluten-free. Now the plain white rice one is clearly labelled as being without gluten. The brown rice pasta, the whole grain one, is not labelled. But when I emailed them in Thailand, I got an answer within 24 hours in very good written English, which made me very happy, saying no, their whole grain one is still gluten-free as well as the plain white rice one. So that's good to know. What you can also look for out there is this is the Taste of Thai, and it's clearly labelled gluten-free. So for a quick meal with pasta, or not pasta really, because you don't really call Asian noodles pasta, do you? But that gives you a quick meal. But what I also do is I will use those Asian noodles that I showed you, and I'll do my own quick stir-fry thing. But I don't do it as stir-fry. I do it in the microwave and just throw the water in with it and some ham and salsa, and I'll make a quick gluten-free that way. So there's other brands out there as well. Jovial is another brand. I know Wegmans make their own brand. So depending where you are in the country, you're going to find companies doing their own brands for their own markets. And you just really have to try them and see. Now, if you're the only one cooking if you're cooking just for yourself and there's no one else in the house, that's fine. You can just cook however much pasta you want. But if there's 5 of you in the household and only 1, 2, 3 of you needs gluten-free pasta, it ends up being very expensive if you're going to cook 5 portions of gluten-free pasta when only 2 of you need it. So the best thing to do is to cook up your batch, say, of gluten-free penne, divide it up into Ziploc bags and put it in the freezer, ready cooked, ready for you for a meal, and then you can cook ordinary pasta for the rest of the family. But that gets to be the next problem, because unfortunately when you strain your wheat flour pasta in through a colander, you can't strain your gluten-free pasta in the same colander, because however much you wash it in the dishwasher, you've still got too much risk of gluten being kept in the nail, you know, where the nails are here, or into the rim or something like that. So you really need to get a new colander and keep it purely for gluten-free, and threaten the family and the husbands with sudden death if they're lazy and pick for your gluten-free pasta colander as opposed to the wheat flour one. The other things you have to be aware of is your wooden spoons and spatulas. If they look what I term attacked, meaning there's bits of cracks or something on them, that's where the gluten can get caught. So again, you need to be careful and have just your wooden spoons and spatulas just for you, and don't let the family use them. It'd be nice to put some form of tape around them or whatever, but really you've got to keep them separate so that the family are not tempted to grab for them because they're lazy and they can't be bothered to get the clean one out of the dishwasher. The other thing you need to be careful of is if you've made gluten-free pasta for you and wheat pasta for the rest of the family, and you've got your pot of whatever sauce heating, you can't let the family go and help themselves to their wheat flour pasta, put that serving spoon into the sauce, and then you've got your gluten-free pasta and put the same spoon into the sauce. You're going to get contaminated that way. And unfortunately, there's plenty of people out there that don't realize the importance of cross-contamination and how I won't say dangerous, that starts being scary, but how it's so easy to get contaminated. And, you know, stomach problems are the least of it. I've known people have joint pains for a couple of weeks after having some gluten and not knowing they're having gluten. So you've really got to be careful for yourself. And yes, be paranoid. You're the only one that can really take care of yourself, so you've got to do it. Now, there are recipes on my website for ordinary pasta recipes, and just use the gluten-free pasta. You can find recipes on my blog, royaltemptations.com/blog. You can like me on Facebook. You can see my links to our local ABC station, and please click and subscribe to me, and I'll be back with even more videos plus cooking. So take care.